Two CEOs from the Bay Area just made very different predictions about the future of knowledge work. Jack Dorsey, the co-founder of Twitter and CEO of Block, the parent company of Square and Cash App, made his statements after firing 40% of his company. He unequivocally stated AI as the reason, claiming that, quote, intelligence tools have changed what it means to build and run a company. He also stated, a significantly smaller team using the tools we're building can do more and do it better, and intelligence tool capabilities are compounding faster every week. He also warned that he believed the majority of companies would follow suit within the next year. The day after the announcement, his company's stock rose by 26%. Meanwhile, the CEO of Box, Aaron Levy, shared a chart on LinkedIn showing a nearly 100% increase in year-over-year job postings for software engineers. He cited something called the Jevons paradox, and the fact that non-technical people are vibe coding software to help with their jobs, only to realize that, quote, there are still 50 other tasks that go into building software and maintaining it. The Jevons paradox states that when the cost to consume a desired resource becomes cheap, demand for that resource skyrockets. That's basically what he's getting at here. At first glance, it seems like these two are predicting inverted future realities. They're not. It's human nature to fall into something called extrapolation bias, which is the stance that current trends will continue indefinitely into the future, i.e., bad will perpetually get worse. One might be tempted to look at Jack Dorsey's move to fire 40% of his company and assume that the next time it'll be 90%, and then all human work will end. While Dorsey didn't give any specific reassurance, some of what he said points to a more nuanced take, one that has the benefit of a historical precedent. The story goes like this. It was around the year 1490, and Aldus Manutius was in his prime. He was a rising Italian intellectual who had just completed several years as a personal teacher to the children of the powerful Pio family of Carpi. His intellectual prowess had afforded him the role, and now it was opening a door to study in Venice, one of the most innovative cities of the Italian Renaissance. While in Venice, he became aware of a special donation that had happened years earlier by a Greek cardinal called Basilius Bessarion, who possessed one of the most impressive collections of ancient Greek manuscripts in all of Italy. Father Bessarion loved books and the pursuit of knowledge so much that he donated his entire collection to the city of Venice in 1468. He included a letter with the donation claiming that he wished books to be accessible to all readers, and that without books people would forget their heritage and revert to being barbarous and unlettered. Aldus was deeply moved by this act of selfless love for knowledge and for fellow human beings. He also was likely made aware of a deep and abiding fear that Father Bessarion had about the fragility of texts. This fear was not theoretical. Bessarion had left his home of Constantinople a little over a decade before it was sacked by the Ottoman Turks in 1453. During the sacking, it was said that 120,000 Greek manuscripts were burned. These lessons were not lost on Aldus, who shared a longing to make reading more accessible and to preserve the precious knowledge contained within religious and secular texts of the world. This culminated in an idea. Aldus secured funding and hired as many as 14 employees, from printing press operators to Greek consultants and translators. He started a printing press and began to create small, portable books called octavos, which are the great-grandparents of the modern paperback. Prior to this, reading was something done in a place of study, seated at a desk with a massive book in front of you. Aldus printed many of these newfangled portable books, from Greek grammar texts to the works of Aristotle and Plato, and even the first portable double-entry ledger, which revolutionized accounting, making it possible for merchants to bring their books on their travels and keep more diligent records. The effect was incredible. The point is this was only 40 or 50 years after the advent of Gutenberg's printing press. For a slow-moving analog world, that is blazing fast. Think about this. When the printing press debuted to the world in 1455, it was a highly secretive and highly controversial invention. It was almost exclusively used to create the Bible and religious pamphlets for its one client, the Catholic Church. Initially, people were actually worried that reading all day would make you dumb. It didn't have the imagination for the press being used for other types of books. Now fast forward just a couple of decades to Aldus, employing 14 people to run a surprisingly modern publishing house, selling accounting books, Greek textbooks, and books about the philosophies of Aristotle and Plato. Also remember that this is only one example of the different industries and innovations that were supercharged into existence as a result of the printing press. Now let's return to the present to draw a few parallels to our current fears. Of course, this time is different, but not as much as we think. The biggest fears that I'm sure all of us have heard by now are that AI technology will be monopolized by a few billionaires who will use it to control reality, spy on citizens, use AI to replace all jobs, and eventually be destroyed by Skynet. The last one is a joke, probably. In this scenario, there are a few powerful elites with enormous wealth at the top, while the rest of us just have to fight over the crumbs that fall off their tables. Will rich and powerful people try to monopolize AI so that it disproportionately benefits them and theirs? Of course they will. Did the Catholic Church try the same? Of course they did. Aldus still created his press and hired all those people, and so did tens of thousands of others. And if you look at what Jack Dorsey actually said in the quote shared above, he didn't say every company should fire all of their employees. He said that AI tools enabled smaller teams to work better and faster. The one thing that AI has already proven beyond the shadow of a doubt is that given extremely precise and complete context about what is needed, the pitfalls and gotchas to avoid, and what done looks like, it can do most jobs that demand a computer, especially computer programming. It can do so incredibly fast and with minimal input from human stakeholders along the way. But while it has seen step function improvements in areas like coding, it has remained almost completely flat with regard to domains where humans thrive, such as discernment, taste, and tact. Don't believe me? Download something called OpenClaw onto your computer and tell it to clean up your email inbox. Meta AI security researcher Summer Yu did just that, and almost immediately, it decided to delete everything older than February 15th, despite her explicitly telling it to confirm before acting. Now, to be fair, clever programming guardrails will probably be built within the next 6 months to mitigate most of these types of catastrophic failures. But therein lies the exact silver lining for knowledge workers and the strongest evidence that the smaller, more nimble teams of human workers working alongside AI are almost certainly going to become the new de facto standard for technology company structures. In all instances where AI has gotten better at not recklessly breaking things in pursuit of a goal, it has always been a guardrail placed on top of the raw AI instead of transformational improvements in judgment from the AI itself. This strongly suggests that large language models are categorically unfit candidates for truly solving human intelligence. And the idea that one day a few extremely rich and likely out of touch people will just be able to tell their proprietary superintelligence to solve all the world's problems, create all the world's art, and produce all the world's innovations is itself a massive hallucination brought on by severe extrapolation bias. To be clear, this doesn't mean that Jack Dorsey's prediction about the majority of companies deciding to follow his lead this year is unlikely. To the contrary, it's almost certain that many knowledge workers will likely lose their jobs in 2026. There's no way around that. But just as with the advent of the printing press, new technologies and new problems always bring new innovations. And new innovations lead to new companies full of small teams of humans working alongside AI to solve them. The double-edged sword of the execution speed of AI means that as fast as it deals humanity new problems to solve, it will simultaneously help motivated humans to find solutions to those problems just as fast, creating new markets in the process, the same way the printing press did in the Renaissance. So if that day comes when I suddenly realize that my Slack login no longer works, I will try to keep all of this in mind.